only are you starring in Hazard, but you also produced it. What was it about the script that resonated with you and inspired you to take on dual roles? And how did the kind of the work behind the scenes influence your performance on screen?
I think, the as far the producing side of it was very minimal for me. It was more of a helping the project get made, just because with indie filmmaking, things kind of fall apart a little bit. And so it was just more of a, helping cast it and that kind of thing. So it was more that my first kind of dalliance into that stuff too. And I think kind of having a little bit of a little more of a say on the edit and all this kind of stuff. It was a really good learning experience for me, and I was lucky that uh, you know, Eddie wanted my help. It was one of those things that on set, you don't have a bunch of money, so you're kind of everyone has to just band together and just make it happen. And I think it was just I kind of fell into the role more than asking for it.
There's so much commitment that you brought to this performance, immersing yourself in the community prior to filming. How did that experience allow you to tap into your character and bring that authenticity to your portrayal that you might not have otherwise gained just from reading the script or through your collaboration with Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm from England. I'm obviously, this isn't my like life story in any capacity, and that's just acting ultimately. But it was important for me to go there and to spend a good amount of time there and to try and go to NA meetings. And I didn't even have a full plan. I just knew that I wanted to spend time there and take things in by osmosis. And
Mhm.
then I was so lucky that the community just really took me in. And I would go to a few NA meetings, and I'd be able to talk through the script and the journey of the characters and kind of the nuances of you know what what it might read on the surface, whereas really what it might be underneath, especially with addiction.
Yeah.
There's there's real darkness that exists under the things that actually you might be excusing as an actor, like, oh yeah, he's just trying to help his dad, and that's why he's getting him a script and just trying to try kind of keeping him from being sick. But speaking to some people that are in recovery, they're like, look, no, the way that it is that one person has access to a script, another person has access to a script, and they kind of rely on each other in this really messed up way to kind of stop getting sick. So it was just little things like that was just really good to get an idea of. And then also I'm luckily I haven't had experience with a heroin addiction or with an opioid addiction personally. I've had friends that have, but being able to talk through, really delve into the feeling of like what nodding out is, and
Mhm.
and all of that kind of stuff. And so lucky that they were just these people, like the people in the community would just really open up to me and explain those things. And also being sick, and ultimately that it's not this chasing of a high at a certain point. It's actually just like trying not to be sick. And towards the end of the movie,
Yeah.
as Will like kind of tries to get clean, the it might seem, me approaching it might seem like it was kind of it's over the top to be all the way hunched over, and and really every movement is painful. But like in talking to these people, they really gave me the freedom and the advice that no, like when you're really sick, your insides are just like each inch of them are hurting. And I wanted to portray that as best as I could.
As somebody who's seen your work in the past, I don't think you've ever been better. And that's so interesting to hear too, because I feel like you also had a lot of creative choices that were very subtle and kind of, him and his withdrawal and kind of like the tremors in his hand when he's driving. I feel like it's so subtle and so nuanced. And there's also such an empathetic quality that you brought to your performance. Like you were just saying, really allowing audiences to fully immerse themselves in the shoes of this character where, the decisions that Will makes, you may or may not agree with, but at the root of his like decision making is this love and the fight for survival and his desire to see the people around him not suffer. How did you create that space for yourself to explore the duality of this character and his vulnerabilities? And how did the performances of your co-star feed into your own? Because it feels like such an intricate dance that you're all partaking in, where there's so much rawness and then showing the realities of this crisis.
First of all, thank you so much for having your own nuanced opinions and stuff on this. I really appreciate how closely you've watched it. It was like the relationships are kind of they're there on the page, and I think that like as a, you always try and approach characters with empathy, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to take this role on. It's a it's a character that's kind of really easy to make assumptions about and really easy to push aside. And I really kind of wanted to get into the shoes of this guy, and I think you know it's I think just the love of it all just kind of came out quite naturally. I think Sosie Bacon, who played Sarah, you know what affected me so much when I read the script was her journey, and
Mm,
the fact that like without giving any spoilers, the fact Will has this kind of kindness fear around him, where he has this like when you come into like kind of when you get into his wake, things just go wrong, and I don't think that like it's impossible for that to all be intentional, for him to
mm,
be going through life and intentionally kind of everyone that gets involved in his life just ends up
yeah.
ruining their own life. It's not intentional. So I think that the love just kind of came, I think yeah, it just kind of came through that. I guess through just like through what the script had and just through empathy of the character. But it ends up actually being this really messed up romance, really, between these two people that are in various parts of their like recovery journey. And so often it happens like that, where it's like it does they don't people don't get clean at exactly the same time, and they do say that you shouldn't really get clean when you're with your partner, because that kind of stuff is all bound to happen. Someone's bound to relapse when the other person isn't relapsing, and then they're going to pull that person in. But yeah, I think ultimately this guy loves his kid, loves his girlfriend, wants to win them back in some capacity, and he's just under the grips of this addiction that is totally tearing his life apart and destroying all the relationships with the people that he loves the most. I hope that answers the question in some capacity. I think the love it's in the script, and then it's just about feeling it, I guess. And then as far as what you were saying about the uh, how the other cast helped with that. I think we were all really committed to
Yeah.
making this as as natural as it could be, or as impactful as it could be. And yeah, I mean, Sosie's an amazing actress, Dave's an amazing actor, and we all kind of just we were shooting in this town in the middle of Kentucky, and we were all leaning into our characters, and yeah, we all had a point of view, and I think that's important, and Eddie helped us with that, and the research that we did helped us with that. Everyone coming in with a point of view, and also knowing what movie they're in. Sometimes everyone like, especially when people are cast without auditioning and stuff, sometimes everyone's in a different movie, And you're like, you
Mm.
watch movies and you're like, this person thinks they're in like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. This guy thinks that he's in a, you know, whatever. So luckily we all knew the movie that we were making eventually.
I also think that's one of the benefits of indie filmmaking too, right? Is that the collaborative team is all there for the right reason. And such an interesting point that you brought up too. It's so easy to judge Will's actions from an outsider's point of view, but like when you put yourself in those shoes and you're seeing a loved one suffer, like all you want to do is be that person that like provides that relief to them. So I feel that's going to start so many necessary conversation, and it also leads with so much hope too at the end. And time is never a luxury when you're working on a film, even more so on indies. And you all shot this within, I think it was like 15 days. Did you find those time constraints really allowed you to kind of trust your instincts as an actor?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of at that point, it's kind of all you've got, you know. It's like you know, you do your prep for it. I was luckily there for a month beforehand, and it's you kind of just got to be ready to shoot whenever, you know, like anything's got like should be able to be like captured. And I think yeah, you know, I mean, so all three of us, we've like worked it, you know, worked enough, and the same obviously with our crew, worked enough to kind of be able to rely on you know on our instincts a little bit. Um, but it actually in it sometimes when you're especially you're shooting a TV show or something over the course of 9 months, like you can't really fully commit to a character for 9 whole months because you will drive yourself totally insane. Whereas
Mm.
when you know that you've got these 2 3 weeks or whatever to shoot this, you can really commit quite wholeheartedly. And you know, I mean, I was in the accent the whole time I was there, and you know, I'm poor family members when they were talking to me on the phone and stuff, and I was like, you know, they were talking to Will. Um, but I mean, we also shot this right on the tail end of there was a like a kind of a COVID scare, so everyone was you know the movie almost didn't get made multiple times, and that's another
Mm.
thing with indie movie making is it's like it's on the brink of not being made time and time again. And I think there's something about it that just everyone just pulls their, you know, pulls their pants up and just goes, you know, and just goes for it. Uh yeah. So yeah, pretty lucky to
That's
be
also why, yeah, that's also why you signed on as a to producer, right? To help get this film kind of across that line. This is a strange question, but did you shoot this chronologically? I'm like recounting scenes now from the film that I feel like are intentionally difficult to watch. And I'm just wondering if you shot this in order, how do you get into that mindset to get into kind of like the darker places that you need to for this role specifically?
Oh, interesting. I yeah, it's not shot chronologically as much as humanly possible. But for me, what I had to do was, especially when he's going through his withdrawals, I just had to basically just have a kind of a like a like a number at which he was either unwell, well, or you know sick. You know, and it because at the point where he you know he's been addicted for a really long time and has been kind of going at it for years and years now. So it's like he's either not sick or getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. So that was kind of tough to not shoot that chronologically and try and be able to try and
Yeah.
pick where he's at his deepest into his withdrawals. That was like a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, I feel like we pulled it off
No, you definitely did
relatively
it.
well.
And credit to the rest of the ensemble too, because so many of these relationships start at one point and they transpire into something different at the end. So the fact that you're shooting this not in a chronological order is just a testament to the passion that you all brought to this. This is also such a deeply personal story to Eddie, who wrote
Yes.
and directed this. How different is that filming experience when the person who's created these characters and that universe is also at the helm directing? What was it like getting to collaborate with him?
Yeah, that's you know that's a big reason why I wanted to do the movie. It's such a sensitive subject matter, and it's also like it's a story that like I think really needs to be told authentically by by someone from that area who
Yeah.
experienced it firsthand, because it's become such a hot topic in the news that everyone's got kind of an outside perspective, but it was really cool to have this perspective of the town, through and there were previous iterations of the script that were like a lot more focused a little bit on some of the company side of it, like the Purdue Pharma kind of stuff, and it just ended up really finding its home being about just being about the town and being about these individual characters and being about you don't really explore anyone from outside the town, and I think that's something that seems valuable. So he was obviously just like we could talk to him about anything, and he would have first hand experience answers, and and then going to a town that has been experiencing such a similar thing for the last 20 years now plus is really helped us kind of try and make it as authentic as possible. So that was a huge reason why I wanted to do this movie with Eddie, for
Yeah,
sure.
those ending credits are so impactful, like you were saying about
Yes.
highlighting the community. And I'm trying not to give spoilers, but I think one of the most powerful things about filmmaking is its ability to start conversations and make other fields seen. I think this project will absolutely do that. As you've gotten to experience this with a live audience, what has it been like getting to experience those discussions in such an intimate space and seeing your work have that kind of impact?
Yeah, really cool actually. We've done some screenings like in and around the towns that have been affected by this opioid epidemic, and each like each audience member, because it's tough subject matter, and like we were prepared for maybe people were going to leave it and maybe people were like not going to like it, but everyone seems to have a character that they relate to. You've got the cops of the towns that are like that they can relate to Dave's character, just a guy who's trying to figure out what the hell is going on in this town, like there's something's up. How is all of this, how are all of these pills getting to the town in the first place, and what, like not even to get into the like kind of the politics of it and stuff, but they were supposed to be non-addictive, like
Mhm.
initially, and they flooded these towns as this like non-addictive solution to pain, and then and everyone got hooked on them. But yeah, sorry, I digress a little bit, but people who have there's people that can relate to Sarah's character, people that can relate to Will's character. Sarah's, she's gotten clean, she's the hero, she's got the most heroic kind of beginning to this movie. She's the one who's doing it. She's really in recovery, and you have total faith that she's going to be okay. And I think there's families of people that have gone through it that feel like they've got a little bit of like an insight into the
Yeah.
survival of it all, and that there's still love there. And yeah, we were really moved by people being moved by the movie. It was really cool.